There are moments in life when we find ourselves trapped in emotional webs that seem impossible to untangle. When we talk about emotionally detaching from a man, we're not talking about coldness or indifference, but rather about one of the most profound forms of self-love and wisdom a woman can develop. Napoleon Hill, in his studies of the human mind and success, always emphasized that our greatest strength lies in the control of our thoughts and emotions. Emotional detachment is not an act of cruelty to yourself or to the other person, but rather an act of liberation. It's recognizing that your happiness, your inner peace, and your worth do not depend on the presence, approval, or reciprocity of any man. This is a truth that many of us take years to understand, especially when we've been conditioned to believe that our completeness comes through romantic love. When Hill spoke about the power of directed thought, he was teaching us something fundamental. We are the architects of our own emotional experience. Every thought we feed about someone who doesn't reciprocate in the way we desire is a conscious choice to remain in a state of neediness and emotional dependency. It's like watering a plant that will never bear fruit, while neglecting our own inner garden. The first step toward this detachment is brutal honesty with yourself. Ask yourself, what emotional needs are you trying to fulfill through this connection? Often we discover that it's not really about him, but about internal voids that need to be filled by ourselves. Perhaps it's the need for validation, to feel desired, to have a purpose, or even to avoid confronting our own loneliness. Hill always said that the subconscious mind does not distinguish between reality and imagination. This means that every time you allow yourself to fantasize about a future with someone who isn't emotionally available, you are programming your mind for disillusionment and suffering. You are creating expectations based on projections, not on present reality. A wise woman understands that true love, starting with self-love, is not something you beg for, chase, or win by sacrificing your own dignity. It is something that flows naturally when two people are emotionally in sync and ready to build something together. When you emotionally detach from someone who isn't available for you, you are making space for real love to enter your life. This process of detachment is also a return to your own center, to your own power. It's remembering that you are a complete, interesting, and valuable person, regardless of any relationship. It's reconnecting with your dreams, your passions, and your personal goals that may have taken a back seat while you invested emotional energy in something one-sided. Napoleon Hill often spoke about the importance of having a clear definition of purpose. When you are emotionally dependent on someone, your purpose becomes winning or keeping that person, and that is a recipe for frustration. But when you redirect that energy toward your own goals and growth, you discover a transformative power that was dormant. Emotional detachment doesn't happen overnight. It's a process that requires patience, self-compassion, and above all, consistency. There will be days when you feel like going back, sending that message, checking his social media. In those moments, remember, every small choice not to feed that connection is an act of self-love and a step toward building your new emotional reality. The human mind is a creature of habit, and when it comes to emotional attachment, it can become our biggest saboteur. Napoleon Hill deeply understood that our thought patterns create our reality, and this is especially true when we talk about relationships. Every time your mind automatically drifts to thoughts about him, you are strengthening the neural circuits that keep you trapped in a cycle of emotional dependency. The first step to breaking these patterns is to develop what Hill called mental self-control. This means becoming a conscious observer of your own thoughts, especially those that arise automatically. How many times a day do you catch yourself thinking about him? How many times do you check if he's seen your messages, or look for signs that he's thinking of you? Each of these moments is a lost opportunity to invest energy in your own growth. The technique of conscious replacement is fundamental in this process. Every time your mind starts to wander toward him, immediately redirect your thoughts to something that nurtures your well-being. It could be a personal project, a goal you're pursuing, a memory that makes you feel powerful, or simply conscious breathing. At first, this will feel forced and artificial, but with practice, it becomes second nature. Hill frequently spoke about the power of repetition in forming new mental habits. Just as you wouldn't expect to transform your physical body with a single workout, you can't expect to reprogram deeply ingrained mental patterns with a few days of effort. It requires loving persistence with yourself. Every time you consciously choose not to entertain thoughts about him, you are literally rewiring your brain for emotional independence. One of the most subtle traps of emotional attachment is the tendency to interpret any minimal interaction as a sign of hope. A like on a photo, a polite reply to a message, a lingering glance. Our mind, anxious for connection, turns these fragments into evidence of something greater. Hill taught us that the mind sees what it wants to see, especially when we are operating from a place of neediness. The reality is that when a man is genuinely interested in you, there is no ambiguity. There are no games, no contradictory signals, no need for constant interpretation. He simply makes himself present in a consistent and clear way. Acknowledging this isn't cynicism, it's practical wisdom that can save you from months or years of misdirected energy. Another destructive mental pattern is the tendency to idealize the person and the potential relationship. Our minds have an incredible ability to create romantic narratives based on minimal fragments of reality. We start projecting qualities we admire onto him, imagining what our life together would be like, creating expectations based not on what he demonstrates, but on what we wish he were. Hill always emphasized the importance of dealing with facts, not hopes or fantasies. The facts are, how does he act? How does he communicate? How much energy and time does he invest in you? Are his actions consistent with his words? When you base your emotional decisions on facts, not on interpretations or potential, you reclaim your personal power. The practice of gratitude is also fundamental in this reprogramming process. Instead of focusing on what you're not receiving from him, redirect your attention to everything you already have in your life. Your friendships, your achievements, your experiences, your health, your opportunities. Hill knew that what we focus on expands, and when you consciously cultivate gratitude for the blessings already present, your emotional vibration naturally rises. The true revolution happens when you understand that the love you so desperately seek in another already exists within you, waiting to be discovered and nurtured. Napoleon Hill frequently spoke about the importance of knowing yourself deeply, and in the context of emotional detachment, this means recognizing that you are your own source of completeness and happiness. Self-love isn't an abstract concept or an empty motivational phrase. It's a daily conscious and transformative practice. It's waking up in the morning and asking yourself, what can I do today to honor who I am and nurture my growth? It's trading the critical and needy inner dialogue for an inner voice that supports you, encourages you, and reminds you of your intrinsic worth. Often, when we are emotionally dependent on someone, it's because we subconsciously believe that we are not enough as we are. We seek in the other person the validation that we should be giving to ourselves. Hill taught us that our self-esteem cannot depend on external factors, including the approval or love of other people. When your happiness depends on how someone treats you, you have handed your personal power over to that person. The process of reclaiming that power begins with small acts of self-care and self-respect. It can be as simple as honoring your own schedule, saying no to commitments that drain your energy, investing time in activities that genuinely bring you joy, or simply stopping the mental self-criticism when you make mistakes. Every act of kindness toward yourself is an investment in your emotional independence. One of the most liberating discoveries in this process is realizing that you don't need anyone to be happy. You can choose to share your happiness with someone special, but it doesn't depend on that person. This is a profound paradigm shift. Instead of looking for someone to complete you, you become a whole person who can consciously choose with whom to share your life. Hill always emphasized that our thoughts create our emotional reality. When you constantly focus on what's missing in your life, especially in terms of a relationship, you are programming your mind for scarcity and neediness. But when you direct your attention to your qualities, your achievements, your possibilities, and your potential, you create an internal reality of abundance and self-confidence. The practice of self-compassion is crucial in this process. Many women are extremely hard on themselves when it comes to relationships. They blame themselves for choosing the wrong men, for being too intense, for not being interesting enough. This constant self-criticism only perpetuates cycles of low self-esteem that make them more likely to accept emotional crumbs. Instead, treat yourself with the same kindness you would offer a dear friend going through the same situation. Recognize that making emotional mistakes is part of human growth. Every difficult experience is an opportunity to learn more about yourself, your patterns, your needs, and what you truly want in a relationship. Developing personal hobbies, interests, and passions is crucial in this process of strengthening self-love. When you have a rich and interesting life independent of any relationship, you naturally become less dependent on the attention and validation of others. You have your own things to talk about, experiences to share, and goals to pursue. Hill often spoke about the importance of having a clear life mission. When you are emotionally dependent on someone, that person inadvertently becomes your mission, to win them over, to keep them, to please them. But when you redirect that energy to your own dreams and aspirations, you discover a sense of purpose that no one can take away from you. The art of setting healthy boundaries is one of the most important skills a woman can develop, especially when it comes to emotionally detaching from someone who isn't offering reciprocity. Napoleon Hill always spoke about the importance of protecting our mental and emotional energy, as these are the most valuable resources we possess for creating the life we desire. A boundary is not a wall built with anger or resentment. It's a loving fence you build around your inner peace. It's recognizing that you have the right and the responsibility to protect your emotional well-being, even if it means disappointing or inconveniencing others. When you don't set clear boundaries, you are unconsciously teaching others how to treat you, and this often results in unbalanced and painful relationships. The first boundary that needs to be established is with your own emotional availability. This means stopping the practice of always being accessible to someone who only shows up when it's convenient for him. It means not immediately answering every message, not canceling your plans to accommodate his schedule, and not being the person who always initiates contact. Hill taught us that what has no perceived value is rarely valued. Constant availability doesn't demonstrate love, it demonstrates a lack of self-love. When you are always available, you are implicitly saying that your life, your commitments, and your time are not important. A woman who values herself has a full and interesting life, and while she may make space for someone special, she doesn't rearrange her entire existence around someone else's convenience. Another fundamental boundary is the boundary of communication. This includes not constantly checking his social media, not seeking information about his life through mutual friends, and not analyzing every word of his messages for hidden meanings. Every time you seek information about him, outside of what he directly shares with you, you are violating your own energetic boundary and feeding the obsession. Hill spoke about the importance of staying focused on our own goals and aspirations. When you are constantly monitoring someone else's life, you are diverting precious energy that could be invested in your own growth. It's like trying to drive while only looking in the rearview mirror. You can't see where you're going because you're fixated on where you've been. The practice of a digital detox can be extremely powerful in this process. This might mean muting his social media notifications, removing yourself from groups where he is present, or even taking a complete break from social media for a period. Every notification you receive about him is like a small dose of an emotional drug that keeps you addicted to the cycle of expectation and frustration. Setting boundaries also means being honest about your intentions and expectations. If you are maintaining a friendship in the secret hope that he will change his mind about you, you're not being a friend, you're being strategic, and that strategy rarely works because it's not authentic. Hill always emphasized the importance of integrity in all our interactions. One of the most powerful ways to set boundaries is through the language you use, both with him and with yourself. Stop apologizing for having emotional needs. Stop minimizing your feelings or pretending that everything is fine when it's not. Be clear about what you want and need, and if he can't offer that, Accept it gracefully instead of trying to convince him or change the situation. The most important boundary, however, is the time boundary. Consciously decide how much time and energy you are willing to invest in a situation that isn't evolving. Hill taught us that time is our most precious resource. Once spent, it can never be recovered. Every day you spend focused on someone who isn't reciprocating is one less day you have to build something real and fulfilling. The real work of emotionally detaching from someone happens in the deepest layers of our being, where our beliefs about love, worthiness, and relationships reside. Napoleon Hill understood that lasting transformation always begins at the level of thought and manifests through consistent behavioral changes. It is in this inner space that you have the power to rewrite your emotional story. Often our difficulty in detaching from someone who doesn't correspond to us properly is rooted in old emotional wounds that we don't always consciously recognize. Perhaps it's the echo of a child who felt unseen by a parent, or the teenager who learned that love means chasing after those who pull away. Hill taught us that the subconscious holds all these experiences and uses them as a reference to interpret present situations. The journey of emotional healing requires courageous honesty about these unconscious patterns. Ask yourself, what stories do you tell yourself about what it means to be loved? Do you believe you need to win love, or that it should be offered naturally? Do you feel more valuable when you're in complex and challenging relationships, or when things flow with ease? These reflections can reveal limiting beliefs that sabotage your ability to attract and maintain healthy relationships. One of the most transformative discoveries in this process is realizing that you may have been addicted to emotional drama. The roller coaster of hope and disillusionment, the intensity of the highs and lows, the adrenaline of trying to figure someone out. All of this can create an emotional dependency that we mistake for deep love. Hill knew that our minds can become addicted to destructive patterns if they are repeated for long enough. True intimacy and mature love, on the other hand, are characterized by stability, consistency, and mutual growth. They might seem less exciting at first to someone accustomed to drama, but they offer a depth and satisfaction that turbulent relationships can never provide. It's like the difference between a bright but fleeting firework and the constant, nurturing warmth of a fireplace. The process of detachment also involves making peace with being alone. Many women stay stuck in emotionally unfulfilling situations because they are afraid of being alone. But Hill taught us that there is a fundamental difference between being alone and feeling lonely. When you develop a loving relationship with yourself, being alone transforms into solitude, a sacred space for self-knowledge and growth. During moments of solitude, you rediscover who you are beyond the roles you play in relationships. You reconnect with your authentic dreams, your natural passions, your inner wisdom. These are treasures that no relationship can give you. They must be cultivated internally and then shared with someone worthy of receiving them. The practice of creative visualization, a technique Hill often recommended, can be especially powerful in this transformation process. Instead of visualizing romantic scenarios with someone who isn't available, start visualizing yourself as the empowered and emotionally independent woman you are becoming. See yourself living a full and satisfying life, attracting relationships based on reciprocity and mutual respect. This visualization isn't escapist fantasy. It's the conscious programming of your subconscious mind for a new reality. When you consistently imagine yourself as a person who deserves and attracts true love, your emotional vibration begins to align with that vision. You naturally start to make decisions and exhibit behaviors that support this new version of yourself. The transformation also requires loving patience with yourself. There will be days when you feel you've regressed, moments when the temptation to return to old patterns will be strong. Hill reminded us that growth is not linear. It's a spiral process, where we sometimes need to revisit old lessons at a deeper level to fully integrate them. The act of emotionally detaching from someone who doesn't return your love is, in fact, a rebirth. It's the moment you consciously choose to prioritize your own journey of growth instead of remaining stuck in dynamics that drain your vital energy. Napoleon Hill always believed that every ending is also a new beginning, And when you close a cycle of emotional dependency, you are opening up space for experiences that are much more aligned with who you truly are. This process of rebirth doesn't happen overnight. It's a series of small daily deaths and resurrections. It's dying to the version of you that believed she needed external validation to feel whole. It's resurrecting as the woman who understands her own worth and does not negotiate on it. Every day you choose not to check his social media, not to send that message, not to interpret non-existent signals, you are strengthening this new version of yourself. Hill frequently spoke about the importance of having a clear vision of the future we wish to create. Now that you are freeing yourself from a limiting emotional pattern, what kind of life do you want to build? What kind of relationship do you wish to attract? It's not just about finding someone better, it's about becoming someone who naturally attracts and sustains connections based on reciprocity, respect, and mutual growth. The woman who emerges from this process of detachment possesses a special magnetic quality. She isn't desperately searching for love because she has already found a reliable source within herself. She doesn't interpret every interaction through the lens of neediness because her self-esteem doesn't depend on external factors. This emotional independence paradoxically makes her more attractive to emotionally mature and available partners. One of the most profound transformations that occurs is in your relationship with the concept of rejection. When someone doesn't reciprocate your interest, you no longer interpret it as a statement about your personal value. Instead, you understand that not all connections are meant to blossom, and this in no way diminishes your dignity or desirability. Hill taught us that we cannot control the actions of others, but we can control our interpretation of those actions. The emotional space you create by detaching from one-sided situations allows you to notice and appreciate the genuine connections that already exist in your life. Perhaps you'll rediscover the depth of your friendships, or notice the sincere admiration someone has been consistently showing you. When we're not obsessed with those who don't want us, we can finally see who truly values us. This journey also develops a more refined emotional intuition within you. You learn to distinguish between genuine interest and occasional attention, between real consistency and empty promises, between someone who is building something with you and someone who is just passing time. Hill always valued practical wisdom, and this ability to read emotional situations with clarity is one of the most valuable skills you can develop. As your new emotional reality solidifies, you realize that you no longer feel the compulsive need to prove your worth to anyone. You don't need to be the most interesting woman in the room, the most available, the most understanding, the most anything. You can simply be authentically you, trusting that the right people will recognize and value that authenticity. The end result of this process is not cynicism or emotional closure, but rather a mature and selective openness. You continue to believe in love, but now you have clear standards for how you want to be loved. You still invest emotionally in others, but in a balanced and conscious way. You remain vulnerable but protected by healthy boundaries that honor your well-being. Hill knew that the true richness of life comes when we align our actions with our deepest values. When you emotionally detach from someone who cannot offer you what you deserve, you are doing exactly that, choosing to honor your values of self-respect, reciprocity, and mutual growth. This courageous choice not only transforms your love life, but elevates every aspect of your existence, because you now operate from a place of internal abundance instead of emotional neediness.